Hey everybody, thanks for joining us for Gen Z movie reviews. I am very excited to talk about this today. This is a monumentous day, guys. This is a monumentous day. We have a lot to talk about. Unlike every stream we've ever done, like for Gen Z movie reviews, we're talking about two movies, two very important movies that pretty much everybody needs to think about again. We need to bring this back into the zeitgeist of modern conversation because we are about to have the blessing of watching 28 Years Later this Thursday night. I know Luke and I were very excited to see that. We're going to be streaming on that Thursday night at 9 p.m. Eastern Time. If you're curious about 28 Years Later, join us for that. But today we're talking about the first two films, 28 Days Later and 28 Weeks Later, written by Alex Garland and directed by Danny Boyle. Before we get into it, though, let's talk to each other and see how we're doing. How you guys doing? It's good seeing you. I have the pleasure of being with GM Light again, Griffin here.
Thanks for having me back.
Thanks for coming back, man. It's good having you. And then Luke, as always, pleasure to see you.
Yeah, it's good to be here.
How you guys feeling? Feeling good?
Oh, we're feeling good, dude.
Oh, good.
28 years later, Eve.
Yeah, right? It's like Christmas is coming up, you know? This is a big one. You know, I think I really didn't know too much about this series until recently. You know, those trailers for 28 Years Later, and then the conversation around it really sparked my curiosity. And I remember when I watched 28 Days Later for the first time, I saw it in theaters. They replayed it in theaters about, I don't know, maybe 4 weeks ago. And wow, I was just completely blown away by that first film. It really
they replayed it in theaters. Sorry.
Yeah. No.
Damn,
yeah,
I wish
they
I didn't
replayed
miss
it.
that.
It was cool, man. It was cool. They did it. It was very brief. It was maybe just like a week or a few days. It was a lot of fun. I saw that with, I think, like 3 other dudes, and we had a great time. It was the first time I think any of us had seen it. And the funniest part was, you know, it's funny when they do like these Fathom events where, you know, like the theaters, they show older films. And usually the people that show up to the older films are the ones that are big fans, obviously. Well, you know, every time I've been to one of those events, it's always sort of like you get a good feeling for like the type of people that are really into it. And when we were at the theater, everyone just looked like they came straight out of the movie. It's hard to describe too. They were all kind of like gothic and sort of like really off. But I don't know. I kind of fit in with them too because I mean we're equally big fans of the series now, and I don't know. It's just funny to be with those kinds of people at those releases.
So it's crowd.
Yeah, it's fun, you know. And I'm so glad they're bringing this back to the theater because I don't think I would have enjoyed this movie as much if I'd seen it only on TV for the first time because it really was special seeing this in theaters, especially because if the audience hasn't seen this movie before, it's like the first one is like really low budget. It was only $8 million back in 2002. Did not cost very much to make. And it really shows, especially when I saw it on the big screen, really low resolution. I mean, it looked like it was taken with one of those old BlackBerry phones.
Even the second one.
The second one, nah, come on, man. The second one looked good.
I mean, it looks like the cameraman was just running around with them.
Oh, well, okay. That's true.
Yeah,
the shaky cam.
Yeah, some of the shots,
I mean, it was hard to see what was going on, but I feel like this series really revolutionized the zombie apocalypse, movie style. I mean, obviously we're not going to talk about Zombieland. I mean, that's nothing like this, but it really opened it up to the world, because this is like early 2000s, and we didn't see a lot of that, like
shot to the arm that the genre needed after kind of being on life support for a while, and then you got the Walking Dead comic kind of premiering at the same time, so you just had this absolute like shot to the ass, bringing zombies back in full force. And this is my favorite zombie movie, actually.
Wow,
it might be mine. It might be mine too. Honestly, I really like the style of the zombies and the way they did it.
Yeah, it's so unique. I mean, that's something like I was surprised when I watched this in theaters 28 Days Later because it wasn't like anything I've seen before. You know what I mean? And this was like, I see so many ties to Walking Dead, especially. Like, we'll break. So the plan for the stream is I'm going to summarize the story very briefly for you guys, and then we're going to talk about the characters, and then from there we're going to go deeper into the story itself. I have each film broken down into 3 key chapters. So we're going to go through those chapters, talk about it, and try to convince you to see the movie if that's what we're, if we're trying to give you the vibe of checking it out, or maybe dissuading you. So, it's up to you to decide yourself. But very excited to check this out. Why don't we just get started, start talking about 28 Days Later. Like I said, an $8 million budget. It was a cheap one. It kind of shows, but it's also sort of like, it's part of the fashion of it. It's really, it's got a look of its own. It's a charm, right? I say this in so many of the shows that we have that, I love grain. I like film grain. Yeah. That's something I love about just like physical film is it has like it has like a retro kind of look, and it just feels like a movie. It's different when you're watching like new movies or new TV series nowadays. I call it
too
like
polished.
The Hallmark effect, right?
Yeah.
Walking Dead did that. They had like the classic, like, what was it? Like a sepia overtone where everything was like yellowish beige. And then now, like the last like 3 seasons, they went full on Hallmark where everything's clean and perfect. There was no style, no haze. Did you notice that? Because that really turned me off.
As far as The Walking Dead?
Yeah.
Dude, I've read every Walking Dead comic, but I fell off of the show at season 8.
How many? There was 11 seasons. Yeah, that's that's about accurate.
Yeah.
I can't remember where exactly that is in the story. Where was that?
It was like actively still during the Negan stuff, but they just stretched it out so long, like with the comics material, to a point where it just slowed it to a crawl.
Oh yeah. It seemed like they were really stretching, just nonstop. Yeah.
Well, it's 11 seasons. You got to stretch a little bit.
Gosh, it really that disappointed me greatly what they did with Walking Dead, because I was really on board for the longest time. And you being like being into the comics or whatever, I bet that was.
I read them all, every single one.
Wow, dang, that's sad. Yeah, I'm not watching any of those ridiculous spin-off series either. No one can convince me. Like, if you can't get
Fear, but I tried to watch Fear the Walking Dead, but that wasn't very good.
Yeah, if you can't get the real show right, there's no chance you have it getting the side stuff. Absolutely not.
Yeah.
But let's talk about 28 Days Later. Just briefly summarizing it for you guys. So, this zombie, like the zombie infection or this apocalypse, it's pretty interesting. It's not really, it's not traditional exactly. It's sort of like a rage fueled like infection, and this odd infection, it started in like this random lab in the UK, and I guess what was happening was there was these scientists or doctors, they were giving these chimpanzees the virus with an attempt to find a cure for the virus.
I can tell you more lore on that, actually.
Okay, good. Well, we'll get into that in just a second. We're just being brief right now. So unfortunately, the virus ends up escaping the lab. The chimps mess up some people that broke in. And UK is in ruins 28 days later after the infection arises. And we pretty much follow the entire movie through Cillian Murphy's footsteps here. Right from the beginning, we see him. He's literally like Rick at this moment. If you watch Walking Dead, he is like the exact same intro as Rick, and I think this was the first to do it as well. But he wakes up alone in a hospital bed, everything's abandoned, shit's hit the fan, and he's pretty much just trying to figure out what's going on in the world. All of the UK is pretty much desolate, empty, and this infection's really screwed everything up. And it's overrun by violent, hateful, infected humans. And they're just not like typical zombies. They're so weird. In the first movie, we don't actually really see them eat anybody. Like, I don't think I recall seeing them like actually eat them. The weirdest way that they spread their disease, spread the virus, is they vomit blood all over you. And if it gets in your mouth or your eyes, then you become infected like pretty much instantly. And the second film focuses more on the fury and like the insanity of the virus. The first one doesn't do that as much, but that's mostly the second one. We'll get to that later. But Cillian Murphy, he's not the only character. He runs into quite a few different people along the way. Selena is another one. She's sort of like this stoic, cold-blooded survivalist, and along with her they run into another family of a father and a daughter, and they're pretty much just trying to make their way through the wasteland of the UK, not really sure what to do, when hope does arise. There's a military sort of a beacon of hope from the military over the radio. They're hearing that the the military has an outpost. They're seeking survivors. Come here if you want to be saved. So throughout the rest of the movie, they're pretty much trying their best to get over there, find safety there. And when they get there, it's not as great as everyone thinks. So that's pretty much just the basic lay of the land with 28 Days Later. However, there's a lot more that we're going to talk about. So stay tuned for that. Before we do, though, what do you guys think of the characters? Because there's not too many. Something I like about both of these films is they don't give us too many characters to chew on. I'll just briefly describe a few of them here. Jim, Cillian Murphy, who we're looking at right here, he obviously, this is iconic, right? I mean, this was the main reason why I even watched 28 Days Later. I was, you see the classic scene right here of him in his scrubs or whatever in the desolate London space, right, in the UK. That's so iconic. I'm immediately just drawn to that. That was something. I mean, you've seen that 1,000 times, right? Well, he's an interesting character in this. He's the main character. He's kind of the unlikely hero. He kind of looks like a dorky loser right off the bat. But
I was going to talk about that too, actually.
Okay, good. Well, yeah. So, despite his physical disadvantages, he does lead with strength, and he puts his life on the line to be kind of a sacrificial hero and leader of the group. So I was really surprised by him. I love his character. Griffin, why don't you tell us a little bit about that? Because I want to get your point of view.
Well, dude, it's like I have the same kind of opinion of it, where what I think is so interesting about this is that he wakes up to essentially probably the worst thing that could probably happen to anybody. You have this bloodborne virus, just going about all these insane people. And he's kind of a wimp, he probably was a loser. He was a newspaper boy. And
you're right. Yeah.
Up in this horrific situation because he was in a coma. And what I think is so interesting about his character is that I love that in the beginning, he seems like a liability to Selena and the group, and he seems kind of weak. Seems like kind of a wimp, but throughout the movie, his arc, and he kind of finds more humanity and strength, and he finds that beast in him to save everybody in the end, which I think is so cool.
Yeah, it's kind of inspiring, right? You got this ditzy, kind of dorky, skinny boy. I mean, he doesn't have much going on for him, and he becomes an inspiring character, right? And this actor, Cillian Murphy, I'm not too familiar with him. I never watched what's that one show he's in with Tom Hardy?
Peaky Blinders?
Yeah, Peaky Blinders. One? Yeah, never watched that. I guess that's sort of his big hit, right? I saw him in Oppenheimer. He was all right. But this was sort of like, when I think of him, I think of this movie just because.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, the iconic scrubs outfit and everything. And I thought, man, he steals the show. I mean, he's really what makes this movie work really well. I loved following him. And you know what? Something else that's great is just the whole cast of characters is just really solid. Next up, I want to talk about Selena, who's the girl on the right of Cillian Murphy here. She, like I mentioned earlier, she's the jaded survivalist who, she used to be a caring person, loving, caring, probably had a family of her own. But I mean, the nightmare of what's erupted in the last 28 days has completely made her so jaded, cold-blooded, doesn't really care about anybody. She slowly starts to warm up throughout the movie because she's starting to bond with these guys. She's feeling safer around them and kind of a little bit of a family dynamic. I really enjoyed her character as well. I think, as everybody does that watches films, I mean, what is really more important than having solid characters, right? If you don't care about the characters, who cares about anything?
So you don't give a shit if they get eaten then.
Oh yeah, right. There's 28 weeks later, we'll talk about that. There's one character that he's pretty prominent. He shows up for a while. And it's I knew he was gonna get eaten. It was so obvious he was gonna eat. He was so screwed. So but yeah, these guys you can't help but to love. And then you have Frank here. I think
he's so sympathetic. Yeah.
Oh yeah, he's awesome. He he's fatherly figure, father to his daughter Hannah, really just a protector, loving, caring, compassionate father. And he's trying to make light of everything despite them living in hell on earth. He's trying to make things, lively and fun and, bring some optimism to light. And then his daughter, she's not really all that interesting. She's okay. She's, just a normal young teenage girl, doesn't really know what to do with her life. It's a rough situation.
Her relationship to Frank kind of makes her a bit more interesting and sympathetic, but Yeah, I kind of agree that there's not as much there to her character.
No. So yeah, so like out of these characters, so just so everyone knows, Luke hasn't seen 28 Days Later,
Yeah,
or else he would be.
as much as I like to pretend I've seen it, I have not.
I was like, when's he gonna comment on it?
Griffin's like, man, I'm doing a lot of lifting here.
I have nothing to say. I like Cillian Murphy.
Okay, good.
That's all I gotta say.
That's fine. It's okay. You
Oh,
didn't
yeah.
say it. But he was trying. He had busy schedule.
And Gord
But,
King, a really quick, great criticism of.
Oh
the,
yeah, we'll get to those because
I like
Gordon,
King with the hot
Proctofile, they're
I
on
liked
fire.
reading those.
They're on fire. We'll get to you guys. Thanks for chatting with us in the chat section. We always love to see what you guys have to say. But out of these characters, who do you think you were most intrigued by, Griffin? Because I mean, this is a solid 4, and I think they work so well together.
Yeah, that's the thing. I really like the 4, and they all work for very different reasons. But, Cillian Murphy, I think he's just the obvious standout, especially with his arc and kind of the eventual way that I like how they frame it too when he has his badass turn at the end, how they frame him like he's one of the infected a little bit with that rage and with that aggression that he kind of ultimately gives into, but to save them.
That's true. That was awesome. Yeah. Like, is this guy like one of them, or is he just like freaking out in normal life?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, he's cool. I know he's so solid. You cannot have. It just does not work without him. I think we'll get to like some of the devastating revelations soon because I want to break it down a little further. But oh gosh, I think that's something I loved about both of these films, despite the criticism the second one has, justifiably so. The second one isn't nearly as good as the first one, that's for sure. The first one's really a standout.
I still like the second one a lot, but it's just not nearly as well made.
No. This is really like, you could just call it quits here. I mean, if you really want to get into this, you could just watch 28 Days Later and you'll be happy.
Yeah.
But something I really respect about both of these films is that, nobody is safe, especially in the second one. Nobody is safe at all. You don't know, just because Cillian Murphy's the lead here, that doesn't mean that he's going to keel over and die any second now. I love it when they do that. And that's the case with this one, but definitely the second one. So we'll get into that a little bit more once we get to 28 weeks later.
Did he?
But well, who? Cillian Murphy? No,
no, he didn't die.
So something weird is
the alternate
I guess
ending
there's Kyle
Really?
Corwith.
Wow.
He told us last week, or when we streamed with him, that he heard that the 28 years later they're making a new trilogy of films, and that Cillian Murphy is set to be in the second one in the trilogy, which is a weird thing to do. But
that doesn't make sense because actually, no, that's 28 weeks later. Sorry. I was gonna dig into 28 weeks later, but we have not dug into.
No, that's right. That's right.
Yeah, I was
gonna say something, Griffin.
Yeah. Well, actually, they already have the second part filmed and is coming out in February.
Oh wow, really?
Whoa,
Yeah.
what? Shut up! Coming out in February?
Yeah.
No way. That's
they really
so
jumped
soon.
into that, huh?
The catch, though, there is a catch to it, which makes me far more skeptical of the second part. It is directed by Nia DaCosta.
That name sounds so familiar. Who is that?
The Marvels and Candyman.
Oh,
2021.
shut up.
Yeah.
Oh.
Which is like you go from Danny Boyle to Nia DaCosta.
Gosh.
I'm really hoping that the script saves that movie. I mean, I don't think she's a bad filmmaker. The Marvels, I like it. It's just she's in the Marvel factory. I don't necessarily blame her for that, even though I couldn't get through more than a half hour of that movie. But,
nice.
But Candyman is a well-made movie, just a terrible, heavy-handed script. So I couldn't, But that makes me far more skeptical of the second part. I don't know why Danny Boyle just didn't direct that one too. But
that is so disheartening. There's no hope. Wow, what a shame. You shouldn't have told me that. That's not good. I don't want to feel dread going into 28 years later, man.
At least it didn't come.
Well,
from
the second part, the Bone Temple is what it's called. Yeah, This one should be.
So that's how they're doing it. They're doing it in parts. Interesting. Okay.
Yeah.
I was wondering how they were going to do that, like how they're going to label it. But let's talk with the chat. Thank you all for talking with us today. We appreciate you. Ooh, King Kong, first off, King Kong 99. Excited for the stream. Make sure to like the video and subscribe to these guys. Hell yeah. If you If you haven't yet already, please give us a thumbs up and share with anybody that's interested. Might need a recap. We
Thanks,
greatly
King
appreciate
Kong
it. That helps a
99.
lot. Cast Styles, hey guys, I've never seen this series. Oh my gosh, come on. Got some work to do, Cass.
Easy catch up too. Only 2 movies before the new one, so that's
Right,
not.
hey.
They're quick too. They're quick. You can watch them
Yeah.
both in one sitting.
We'll both watch them tomorrow before the movie.
Nice. Good for you. Smart. Proctofile. Weird. I popped in a few minutes ago and it said it was scheduled for the 19th. Oh, wait. Oh, that's for 28 years later,
yeah.
man.
Yeah.
28 years. Stay tuned. All right, Gord King. Yep, it's about to get heated in here.
Yeah,
Gord
his
King.
hot take.
20,
His
28
hot take.
days equals great movie. Hey, that's happy. Good for you, Gord. 28 weeks later equals awful movie. Oh, come on, Gord. All right, and Proctofile, he is probing. Gord King says the plot breaks about 40 minutes in and gets progressively worse. Oh, wait, you know what, Gord? We might have to hold some of these chats for later, talking about
We're talking
because we're not.
Yeah,
I
there's
think
a
we're
lot
gonna
of
have to wait.
criticisms when we
A
talk
lot of
about
ground being
that.
dug.
We're gonna wait, Gord. We'll come back. We appreciate your input, though.
Oh, Sean pulls
Sean
tricks.
Pulstrix,
That's my
my
buddy.
dogs. What's up, man? Good to see you. Thanks for joining us. Yeah, sorry, Gord. We'll talk about your stuff later because we got to talk about the first film. So yeah, I wanted to break this down into 3 parts because there's, you know what? These films, they're not very long. They're easy to digest, and they're really not that complicated, which is nice. But they're artfully done, especially that first one. And it's not all that much actually happens in the films. You know, it's a lot of it's pretty light. It's pretty light, not too much content. You know, a lot of it's just like building the scenery and kind of building the atmosphere, kind of engrossing yourself in the setting and you know the hellscape that is UK at that point in time. So if we go to the first point, the first part I'd like to say is Jim's awakening. You know, right off the bat, we see Jim, Cillian Murphy. He wakes up from the coma, just like with Rick from The Walking Dead. You know, he wakes up, nobody's around, everyone's gone, and he has no idea what happened. He's awoken to this new world that was not where he was 28 days earlier. And I don't actually remember if we learned what happened. Did he get like hit by a car or something like that, Griffin? Do you remember?
He mentions it pretty briefly, but I don't even know if I caught it the first time I saw it. But he was like a newspaper boy that got hit by a bus and went into a coma, and then wakes up 28 days later to a very different situation.
Okay. Huh. Interesting. All right. Yeah, it's not very clear. Yeah, it's very subtle what they do with that. But yeah, not too much happens in this first part. You know, he's discovering the world. He runs into Selena and Mark. And poor Mark, he does not last very long. I can't even find a picture of Mark. He's so brief, but he's this nice guy. You know, Selena's the girl here to the right. And they take a little tour to Cillian Murphy's family home. And this is where one of the most shocking scenes in the whole film for me was when he, you know, sees his parents and how they offed themselves with pills. And that was a really grim scene, really sad. And as he's kind of touring his past one final time before saying goodbye to move on to, you know, a much crueler future for his life to come, he is ambushed for kind of the first, well, it's not the first ambush. It's one of the closest encounters he has with one of these zombies, one of these infected people. And Mark comes in, tries to save the day, and he gets infected. And right after he gets infected, Selena gets straight to work and just chops him up. And it's like, whoa, man, it got crazy really fast.
That was what I think was one of her most interesting kind of character touches in the beginning, was it just shows how little she hesitates, because they kind of make it seem like they built a rapport by the time Cillian Murphy's character meets the both of them, but without hesitation, the second that she realizes that he's probably infected, she doesn't even wait around to find out before she just absolutely axes him.
That's a good point. Yeah, you're right. Like she has like a friendly relationship with that guy at first. You know, it seems like they've been together for a while. They're friends, really close. And then, yeah, that's a good point. So yeah, that sort of sets the scene where Cillian Murphy's like, oh gosh, you know, I have no luck with this girl at all. She's not showing me any mercy from this point forward. That's a good point. Good catch.
Is it graphic?
Not really.
Like, is it
the
like
first one really isn't graphic at all.
Oh, really? Oh, I mean, it's
Yeah.
not that bad. It's
I
just
think more of the disturbing scenes, even to like take a little bit of a step back, it's not like the gore or the violence. It's just some of the scenery. Like just one of the parts that actually is, a lot of, I'm pretty desensitized at this point to horror movies, but it still kind of gets me a little bit when he walks into that church and just sees like all the people that probably ran in there seeking sanctuary in a church, but it's just their bodies are just everywhere. And it's just so creepy and uncanny when he says hello, and you just see a couple of them like get out,
Oh
and they're just
yeah.
all fucked up looking. It's really creepy.
Yeah, that's iconic too, right? I mean,
Yeah.
it's kind of like, how do you describe what this feeling is? Because there is like, I don't know if cinematography is the correct word, but 28 Days Later, it just has this the whole way it's filmed is so unique. It's like unlike any film I've ever seen, which is like truly disturbing imagery,
Yeah.
shocking, kind of
Yeah.
like
It's nihilistic. It's very nihilistic.
nihilistic.
Give me
Okay,
a
that's good word.
VHS kind of vibe. You know, like those
Yeah.
VHS horror movies, like especially 28 Weeks Later. I'm not going to explain it, but it was very graphic and very like I said to Jackson, they did not pull punches.
Oh
Oh,
no.
yeah.
Yeah, they definitely
They did
don't.
not pull the
Especially the
punches
second
in the
one.
second one.
Oof.
No. Yeah, it definitely has its own unique vibe. And I really respect that about it. Really interesting. And it just gives all of these like zombie infected people a lot of weight. Like it seems like they look stupid, especially in the first one. They're literally just people
Yeah.
with a little ooze in their mouth. It looks cheap, but they play it off perfectly. It's so
Yeah.
strange. And it's like they're not even zombies at that point. It's like its own thing. I don't even know what to call it. I don't even like calling them zombies because they're not
Yeah,
really zombies.
they're like infected because it's a bloodborne virus
Just maniacs.
piggyback from an Ebola genome. So they're basically roided up Ebola patients that are just
literally
on
that are
just
freaking out, man.
adrenaline.
Yeah, for real, man. That's good. But not too much else happens in this first act. You know, the Cillian Murphy and Selena, now they're on their own. So, you know, the two on the right here, and they finally come across Frank and his daughter. They have a pretty good setup. You know, they're living in this nice, I guess it's sort of like a really tall apartment complex. It's really a shame they didn't just stay there. But, you know,
Yeah.
resources are limited. You know, they're not
Yeah.
able to collect any water. It's just not raining anymore. So they have to leave. There's really nowhere to go. I mean, it's dead. It is dead as hell in this city. No one's around. It's so weird how desolate it is. It seems even more desolate than Walking Dead was. I mean, completely hollowed out. Nobody's around. And, you know, there's just a little bit of hope for these guys in this. It's sort of like a radio signal, from the near distance. And it sounds like there's a military outpost where there's some official military men. It sounds like a very official government sanctioned program where they're here to help people. Come here to these coordinates and find us. We'll give you sanctuary. We'll keep you safe. They don't know if this is like legit or not, but they really don't have any other hope. So this is when we move into the second act, which I call the Voyage of Hope. And this is when the group ventures on over to the Beacon of Hope, to the signal. And, you know, it's a pretty rocky ride to get there. Of course, it's not a simple, point A to point B. A painful scene to watch was when these poor guys were, in the tunnel and they get a flat tire in the tunnel.
Yep.
You remember that, Griffin?
That part it makes me so anxious watching it every time.
It's awful.
You really feel it too. And the thing is, they couldn't get these hordes of infected because it was so low budget that they just had to have these they probably use the same people every time. So they get these kind of tight shots in the dark of all these people running, and you just feel it just by the way it's shot. You feel like this horde coming, but there probably was only a few people, and they probably were only able to shoot there for like a minute tops.
Yeah, it's weird how effective that is, just even a few of them. I almost kind of prefer just a few over like a giant horde. I don't know. It seems a little more special. You could give them a little bit more of a spotlight. Real quick before we go on any further, I like what Gord King says here. The problem with the apartment is that it's a death trap at night. If the infected break through the lower barriers, plus getting food up to it would be dangerous. Yeah, those are good points.
Oh yeah,
I didn't think about that. Yeah, it's super high up in the air. It's like 10
you got
flights.
nowhere to go but down from the top, man.
Yeah. I liked how they also introduced Frank like as this menacing, like almost like evil brute. You know, he's got the
Yeah,
ski mask on and he's pretty
with the
horrifying.
riot shield and all that.
Uh-huh. Yeah, it
I
was
love it.
freaky. He was
I,
scary.
I
Yeah.
have to watch this tonight.
You need to see it, man.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
know.
watch it tonight.
I'm like dying to see
We're
it
gonna be
now.
spoiling a lot.
The
I
whole
mean, we're
tunnel scene sounds
spoiling.
pretty
Heavy
intense.
spoilers, everyone. Heavy
That's fine.
spoilers.
It's
We're going
20
into
years old.
every moment.
Sorry,
Gord-
Luke.
If any movie that's before 2025, I don't care if you spoil it. I mean, it's
Mm.
if it's a newer movie, I mean, it's still all right. But
Dude, you
nice.
spoiled Casablanca for me.
spoiled the
Yeah.
Titanic.
No, you bastard.
Come on,
It
bro. I was
sank.
gonna watch that.
That is still the worst, though. I mean, there's so many classics that have been ruined with memes or whatever else on Instagram. That's so
Oh
annoying when
yeah,
that
no,
happens.
you can
It's like,
never preserve that anymore. Like, Sixth Sense, Empire Strikes Back. You'll just never have that experience that people had when they went to see it opening weekend.
I know. If only we could be there in that time. It'd be so
2
much
decades
better.
ago.
Yeah.
Gord King, in this kind of world, you have to be nomadic until you can establish a constant flow of resources. Yeah, that's for sure. I love like the scavenging aspect of all this. I love that people
Yeah.
just need to like scavenge because there's no other hope, really. I mean, these zombies or whatever you want to call them, infected, they're really a lot worse than normal zombies. They're fast. They're kind of human
Angry.
too. Yeah,
Yeah.
they're angry, especially in the second film. I mean, they're really trying to really mess you
Yeah,
up.
they're like they got shots of adrenaline. They're stronger. They're faster. So they just, I think that they're some of the most rabid and freaky versions of zombies that I've ever seen.
Yeah, I'm not really a big fan of zombies. I don't know. I don't really care much about them, but yeah, this is interesting. These are
Yeah.
interesting take, very different. But like you said, Griffin, that flat tire scene was awful, freaky, terrible situation. Nail biting. They're right about to show up,
Yeah.
and of course they change the flat. They get moving, and what I thought was like a nice, a nice breath of fresh air was the grocery store scene. I love the
Yeah.
grocery store scene. You know what? All
That's
these
some
guys,
of what I
they're
liked about the
already.
second act.
Oh yeah, it's gotta like it gives you a little bit of light. It gives you a little
Yeah.
bit of dessert. It
The
tries to
first-
sweeten the
The
pot.
first act is so fucking bleak that the relief of the second act is a nice change of pace, and you get to see too like Selena finally soften up a little bit, especially with the way Frank and Hannah are.
Mm-hmm. Oh, that's a good point. It's not just the grocery. Yeah, we get like it's a road trip.
Yeah.
Like the second act is like road trip, having fun. Everyone's getting friendly with each other. Cillian Murphy and Selena are getting a little too friendly now.
Yep.
So, and I'm rooting for him too. I'm rooting for him. You got this, man. You got this. You're doing
Yeah.
good. So I was real excited for him. And yeah, it was much needed. You're right. Very bleak. You need a good mix. I
Yeah.
love bleak and I like serious, but this was a welcome treat here.
Yeah.
And not too much happens. I love the grocery store because that's sort of like wouldn't that be awesome if right now we could go to the local Kroger, Walmart, whatever else, and you could just pick out anything you wanted and the whole store was stacked with everything. It's just like it's one of those dreams. It's like, man, I wish we could do that.
Yeah.
That'd be so fun. I don't know. That's one of my favorite parts about the apocalypse is the free roam, right? There's really no rules.
scavenging.
You're not stealing anything.
No.
Yeah, so the second act kind of ends with the end of their destination. They finally reach this weird military encampment. It's abandoned. There's not much going on here. And this is when one of the most shocking scenes of the entire film happens. It seems like all hope is lost again because, the military guys, they're not there. They finally reach the end of the road. And, it's a bunch of empty tents.
Yep.
And the dad here, he just kind of wanders off on his own. And, being a hospitable human person, he has his humanity. He's loving, he's caring, compassionate. He sees that there's this dead body up, like hanging under a bridge or something like that. And a crow's picking at it. So he's like, leave it alone, man. That's not cool. Have some respect to a crow. And, as he's pestering the crow, blood drips into his eye.
Uh,
And he, oh yeah, man, Luke, we're spoiling it for you. Oh gosh, sometimes I think you just need to cover your ears because blood gets in his eye. It's totally unexpected, and the daughter approaches him, and he's just like, "Oh, what do I do?" And he has this really sad final dialogue with his daughter before he starts erupting into,
yeah, it's
being
the
furious.
saddest. I think it's the most heartbreaking scene easily of the whole movie because, especially too, he felt like the character that was most desperate to preserve humanity and his humanity and decency to other people. I mean, he let in Selena and Jim in no problem without even
Yeah.
asking them questions. And you just see too that it's so sad because he like snapped on his daughter and he has that moment where he realizes that he's screwed and he tells her he loves her, and then you just see his humanity like just quickly just strip away while he becomes just a ferocious monster.
Gosh.
And it's so, and then once the military comes in, so shocking.
Yeah. Oh yeah, they put him out quick. That's
Yeah.
it. He's dead. It's over. No hope. It's just sad that like once these guys turn, it's done, and that was sort of like, you see that. I kind of expected him to die. I just had a feeling he would. And unfortunately it happened. And that was real disappointing. You're right. He was the heart of this film, and yeah, really disappointing. And that was something I told my mom because she watched this later, is that, the people that are alive the longest are the ones that are like the worst mostly, right? Because they're willing to cut a lot of corners and
take advantage of people, rob people, loot, like
And
It's-
unfortunately, that's the truth of chapter 3, which what we're about to get to. More disappointments appear here in chapter 3, which I call Hell Unleashed. So yes, oh great, the military's here. This guy is welcoming us into his lovely camp. We're treated, the group is met with open arms. Everything's great routine here, super safe environment. They've got it all locked down. They're rebuilding humanity. The UK's coming back, baby, better than ever. Well, turns out, they want to do nice things for people, but they have, they want to get something in return too, and they want something that's not very nice at all. This is sort of like, I don't know what his rank is. He's the leader of this band of military men. There's probably a dozen of these guys, and they all seem really cool at first until he realizes that, we did that. We had that signal just so I could get some ladies here because these guys really need some ladies. And the guys are being pretty bad. They're being pretty bad with the ladies, and it's not cool. Yeah. And, before this happens, it seemed like a great setup here. I'm really curious to know what Frank would have done if he was still alive in this situation, because these guys are pretty bad news. And, they're desperate, right? They're desperate. They're trained for high stakes action nonstop, right? I mean, that's military training. And they're super bored, and there's not any ladies around. So of course those two don't add up very well. And it's really like a hopeless world. So they're descending into, some pretty douchey traits here, and they want the two ladies for what you expect. And once that happens, Cillian Murphy's like, we got to get you guys the hell out of here. So he races to try to find the girls and get them out, but it's a little too late, and he's cornered. There's all these guys, and they don't like that Cillian Murphy's not along with the plan because he gives them a big no. He's not interested, and they send him out to be executed. So that was, obviously he doesn't die. He's able to escape the execution. I thought something that was kind of like, it was kind of nice was that I didn't notice the first time I watched this, was that one of these other soldiers tried sticking up for those girls. Did you notice that? Because I didn't really understand what was happening, but one of the other guys was, aiming his rifle at the other soldiers because he wanted to help them. And he was executed. He died because of that. And that guy didn't get any credit at all, even though it was a failed attempt. But that's sort of like, now we're heating up in a totally different fashion. We got some really serious man versus man here. You know, we had man versus beast for a long time. Now we have some serious man versus man. And Cillian Murphy's going on kind of a vengeful spree to rescue these girls for the last 30 minutes of the film. And, as you mentioned earlier, Griffin, he kind of goes primal. He goes primal.
Like, becomes that beast.
You want to describe it for everyone?
Yeah, it's great because he uses his smarts to get away, but he really finds it in himself to become that dangerous person that he needs to become in this new world, which I thought was really interesting. And he gets so absolutely savage, and he gets put into a situation where in his old life he probably never could have gotten something like that out of him, but because of everything he's been through, because of what he's forced to be in this moment, especially when you see that these soldiers represented what they thought was, getting back to a little bit of normalcy, a level of humanity and civilization, but that's all broken down. It's almost like the flip side of Frank, where Frank was hospitable, friendly, kind, and welcoming. These guys were transactional and barbaric, and Cillian Murphy's put into that situation where he has to become even worse so that he could take all these guys and strategically take them out in just absolutely brutal ways.
I think my parents, they mentioned how it's like, how on earth did he outsmart these guys? Because, I mean, they're trained soldiers, and they had such a great regiment here. I mean, their base was really well charted. They had a great plan, great layout. So I don't know, really, it is kind of ridiculous how he was able to outsmart them.
I always saw it as I forget his name, the leader guy who's kind of running the whole thing.
He's the dark elf from Thor.
Yeah, I was gonna mention that. Yeah.
Oh, wow, I see it.
He's way better in this.
And Mike's film fix is right too. It's poetic that Jim becomes the monster to these soldiers in the third act, and it puts things in perspective. Yeah, exactly. That's how I was saying too, was how they frame him almost like he's the infected, and she takes a moment because she doesn't know for a second, and even considers having to kill him if he is infected, but he's not. But getting back to what I was saying, I always saw it almost that he's the brains of the operation, because some of the guys seem like boneheads that just kind of followers, So I think that really the main guy was kind of the one holding things together strategically and probably just told them what to do. But which is maybe just my way of like trying to make the movie make more sense and not have to take logic leaps. But
they did all seem like a bunch of boneheads. I mean, he was like, I respected his character, I mean, he seemed like a hospitable, great leader that kept everything in line. And, at first it was like respectable leadership. And then obviously it turned out to not be that way. And that was disappointing. So I do agree with you there, though. I like the Gourd King. So I do think it's a bit convenient that he overcomes them, but it's worth keeping in mind that they haven't seen a lot of combat, particularly close quarters. It's unlikely, but not utterly implausible. Oh, good point. Yeah. I mean, especially like against like, someone that like has intention of killing like a person and not like one of those infected.
I mean, too, it probably was easy to underestimate him. They were heavily armed. I mean, he probably caught them by surprise, or he did catch them by surprise sometimes and hit around, and but they were very tactical in trying to take him.
Oh yeah. So what ends up happening here is also in sort of the background, as the guys are getting a little friendly with the ladies, the Hannah takes a bunch of drugs and she's starting to trip balls, and it kind of like, I don't know, she gets herself into a little bit of trouble, but it ends up helping everybody out. And Cillian Murphy ends up killing that leader dude, this guy. Or actually, no, it was sort of Hannah. She did it. She sent some of the infected guys after him, and they escape, and it's a very strange ending. You think that's the end of it when they charge out of the base. They drive, fly right through the gates, but it ends with a happier sight. Cillian Murphy, he was shot, and now he's healing. He's in bed, and he wakes up, and he's in this nice like farm or like a homestead kind of thing, in like a beautiful farm plains. And there's hope. He's got a big banner out, and there's a plane flying above them, and it ends there. So that's the end of 28 Days Later, the first of. Yep, that's the first one. We covered an awful lot. Yeah.
Can you go back to the picture of the leader? I've been dying to say something about
also
that.
By Mike's Film Fix. Thanks for stopping by, brother.
See Mike's Mike. Film. Okay, so is this shot from the movie?
Yeah, this is a grainy one.
I can't help to notice it looks like it's a picture taken from an old flip phone. Is this the quality of the film?
No. It's not that bad. This is this is bad. That's on me.
Okay, I didn't know to.
I've heard more recent editions of the movie just make it look worse though. I still watch it on DVD, but
it was so stretched in the theater. It was unbelievable. Like I saw somebody here in the chat mentioned they saw it in IMAX.
Oh yeah,
my buddy Sean.
How did you see these? These are in. I can't even imagine what.
I didn't know you did that. Asshole didn't invite me.
Yeah, what the hell? That'd be cool. I want to see these in IMAX. Come on, Sean. I'm glad he had that opportunity, though.
No, that's really cool.
Just real quick, let's talk about like what were the most shocking elements of the film to you guys? Well, to you,
I have no
Griffin.
clue.
Yeah,
because like I just want to mention, I just mentioned them quickly because I want to move on to 28 Weeks Later. But the funniest thing in the whole film. Wait, is it just us? Okay, let me take this picture down. So the funniest thing in the whole film for me was really the intro when you see it's the first shot of Cillian Murphy.
Yeah, it's just like
and he's in the
literally
he's in the
balls.
bed and he's got his dick hanging out. Oh my gosh. I haven't laughed that hard. I haven't laughed that hard since high school. Like being in the class and your buddy tells you an inappropriate joke. Oh my gosh, it was hilarious. All of us were holding it so hard, laughing out loud. Everyone was super serious around us. That was so funny. That was probably the most shocking scene for odd reasons, obviously. Frank's death was really disappointing. Cillian Murphy's dead parents, mummified. And then I also thought just the whole intro with the chimpanzees was very well done. And it was like really eerie, like that's like freaky, gross chimpanzee stuff, and
the way they
act, I want to see more of that.
The movie. Okay, not to bounce back. I know we're trying to get to 28 weeks, but the first scene. What is this movie rated?
R. I think it's R.
Yeah, it's hard R.
So
hard R. All right, Griffin. Do you have any real quick before we move on?
Oh
Shocking scenes?
you touched on Frank's death, which was obviously. And Jim finding his parents, those are just so bleak. But I'd say, though, the part that creeped me out the most, or I'd say like disturbed me the most, because it's like the fall of civilization stuff that I find pretty creepy and just haunting. Dude, walking into that church and just seeing all those bodies is just, I think, so. But I have a quick question, too, for you. So the alternate ending is Jim, after he gets shot, they bring him to the hospital and he dies. Would you have preferred that, or do you think that the ending they stuck with was better? I like the more hopeful ending.
Yeah, I don't want him to be dead.
Yeah, like
I kind of want him to be rewarded for all that hard work.
Because I think it's kind of tough sometimes when they go through so much just to die. Like that's a little bit too much for me sometimes. So I like that they kept him alive.
I could see that being the case, though, because I mean, as we're about to talk with 28 Weeks Later,
that would make much more sense.
They have, they're taking everybody out in that one. So yeah, I'm glad that wasn't the case. I want to see him in the second film, like you're talking about. I am so worried that you said what's her face is going to be directing. That is, dude, that's the worst news I've heard in a while.
It's not good, but still Alex Garland's script, which is if she just doesn't fuck with it and just makes the images come to life in a way that's not the Marvels.
That's true.
Yeah. Really quick, Gord King, I have not seen 28 Days Later. I need to get to it because I've heard almost everything about it. But
Luke.
it's making me want to see it, you know.
You're getting the
Good.
whole rundown before you
Yeah,
watch them.
right. So I know what to expect.
That kind of makes it more fun a little bit.
Yeah,
Real
I mean,
quick,
yeah.
Star Wars gazer. Yo, box office. What's up, man?
What's up, Star Wars?
Good to
Gazer?
see you.
Star
Thanks
Wars
for
gazer.
joining us, man. Good to see you again. Been a while. Yeah, I think we're gonna move on to 28 weeks later, and yes, we will be getting to these chats as well. Getting into that. 28 weeks later, it's definitely it was a lot different than I thought. You know, this is
Yeah.
like 28 days later. I kind of like I don't know what the like. I don't know if it's like a philosophical term. I remember learning in school like the man versus man, you know, man versus nature, man
Yeah.
versus
Oh, yeah.
monster. This is like a lot of man versus man. I didn't see that coming. I mean, this is not really much of a zombie film, the second one. And it
Yeah.
was like it takes place in an interesting time period.
Yeah.
It wasn't really it's
Yeah.
28 weeks after the virus spread, so it's not like 28 weeks later after 28 days later. And yeah, so pretty much 28 weeks after the virus spread, London, of course, depopulated, and all the infected are pretty much dead. That's
Yep,
it.
They
All the
gassed
zombies,
out. They're gone.
Starvation.
Isn't that weird?
Yep.
All the zombies starved, and there's like just a little bit of a remnant remaining in the UK. And I love that right off the bat. Like that's different. Finally, you know, I mean, these are not zombies; they're more human. It makes more sense, right?
Yeah.
So I like that realistic approach here. And you know, this is also it seems plausible. What also happens here is the U.S. military gets involved, and they're trying to kind of bring London back to where it was, you know. And they drafted out this giant space for it's sort of like a containment area where they can control the environment, make sure everyone's healthy. You know,
Yeah.
only healthy people come in unless
Keep out the
yeah,
virus.
you're quarantined, whatever else, keep the virus out. And that sounded plausible. It sounds real to me. And
Yeah.
the story is, you know, pretty interesting. The intro leads us to believe that at first, you know, our main protagonist is this dude, and he seems like a normal dude. This is a weird main character. This is
Yeah,
a
he is.
very
I
strange.
highly disliked him.
Oh my gosh!
Yeah, I wanted to talk about that because I was very curious. I don't want to cut you off. Well,
no. Mention what you're saying.
I mean, I guess we'll talk about the intro first, and I'll tell you what I'm thinking.
Okay, that's fine. But yeah, very interesting main character here. He looks like a whiny baby here, and you know, recently, you know, it's totally okay. These guys are whining. They're in hell. You know, it's a
Yeah.
terrible situation. But he is a really one of the most off-putting main characters in anything I've ever seen. Very strange. You know, his name's Don, and the story follows him initially. He's sort of a dad that survived the first outbreak, and he some shit goes down in the very beginning, and later on he is on his own and he's leading.
Yeah.
He's sort of like in charge of this containment area. It looks like he has a lot of precedent and agency there. He has access to pretty much all these kind of secure locations.
Yeah.
And he reunites with his kids after I guess they were long lost. And, you know, some crazy stuff goes down with his wife. We're going to get into that more when we go deeper into the story. This is just talking briefly. But, you know, kids being kids, they explore, right? They explore. They don't want to be cooped up in this containment. They don't want to be quarantined forever. So they leave the quarantine zone. They want to explore, right? And they, let's just say, you know, they find a way. Yeah. They make some mistakes and they accidentally, in one form or another, bring the virus in, and hell breaks loose inside. And even worse than the virus itself, the military reacts in a very strange way that really erupts all of these characters into utter chaos. And, you know, much of this film, like I said, is man versus man. It's not so much man versus monster. And to me, that was really interesting. I loved that aspect. And I'm going to be a little more, you know,
Yeah, I like the government containment aspect of infection movies, which this one definitely leans on.
Yeah. And that's, you know, it deserves some credit for that because I think it has clever elements. It has clever bones to it, a clever structure.
Yeah.
Although I think maybe the implementation wasn't the best because these
It's
characters
more action focused.
Yeah, it's not scary at all.
No, it's not scary.
I'm glad that
I think that first scene though is really intense, and we'll talk about it. But
yeah. So why don't we,
yeah.
Luke, just right off the bat, because I want to give you a chance to talk. How did you feel after watching 28 Weeks Later? You know, this was your entrance into the series. You haven't seen the first one. How did you feel watching this? Are you
almost refreshed? I've seen a really good and thrilling zombie movie. You know, I don't think I've seen one of those. I'm not counting Zombieland. Besides Dawn of the Dead, this is like one of the best zombie movies I've ever seen. You know,
Gore King's gonna hate you.
I know. I'm talking on behalf of all three of them, even though the newest one hasn't come out. But I know zombies aren't real, but they obeyed the laws of physics. They die eventually. Their brains swell up, so they get frustrated and mindless. So they're fast. They're not just slow and dumb like usually make it zombies still like. It was very good.
Undead, like they're just they're suffering from this like horrifying virus,
mad cow disease. But no, I was very happy with this film. I thought it was quite fun watching. Shit hit the fan pretty much the whole movie. Literally the whole movie, and they did not pull punches like I said before. They just went. The worst happened every time. It was not anticlimactic.
No, that's for sure. Let's get into the characters a little bit because I like setting up the story. I like setting up the story with the characters because I think it's the central element of every film, right? You got to have great characters. I want to start with the dad, of course, even though we just briefly mentioned him. Don, he's sort of the main character, kind of shares the space. For like the first hour, he's probably the central focus. He is very strange, interesting protagonist, later to be antagonist. I call him the dad of the year. And, in the very beginning, they have this pretty good situation where they're living in this nice space. It kind of looks like it's really locked down. It's very, very sound structure. And they're cooking up decent food. They had a good group of people and, all was hunky dory. And then zombies eventually found their way in there. And, dad of the year, Don, he was kind of pinned in a room where he didn't have too many choices. He had his wife in there as well as this random kid that was sort of a stowaway. And he had the chance to save them, but he left and he abandoned them. And this will haunt him for the rest of his life. And as it does for the next, 28 weeks. And this is like, one of a pivotal moment for the character because we start to realize just right off the bat that he's kind of slimy. He's kind of slimy and he's, cowardly. And I don't really blame him for being that way, but it did not look good right off the bat. You knew that this is not going to be a character you fall in love with. And yes, as we said already, he finds himself in a successful space and he rekindles his relationship with his kids once they reach that safe space as well. And worse yet, he ends up getting infected. We'll get into that a little later. And that's when he becomes the antagonist. And this was like one of the most annoying parts of the whole film for me was this guy just wouldn't stop showing up.
Violent for no reason.
Yeah. Well, dude, that was the thing that I wanted to ask you about was because I actually got a lot of pushback for saying exactly what you said in my 28 weeks later video. I got actually a couple comments telling me that I said that Don was cowardly and I got several people saying no, he wasn't a coward. He was just surviving and she would have died anyway. He just survived and stuff. I'm like, you're not winning any awards with your wife.
No, he was
because I felt like they framed the decision in a way that it was cowardly.
He had a chance. But in his defense, it's how would any of us react in that situation, right?
Yeah.
Well, there was no reason. Didn't he slam the door?
Here he is.
Yeah, he did. That's the thing.
There was no reason he had to do that. She would have had a open space out the window with him. You know, he just didn't want a relationship anymore. That's all.
Ooh. No, he said fuck her and that kid.
Yeah, no, he wanted a free life, and then he went outside.
It was not a good look. It wasn't a good look.
Well, even in the Boondocks parody of that scene, they have the granddad throwing his kids at the zombies. Like,
nice. That's the move, right? Just throw the kids right at the zombies. Good, great distractions.
It's a good start. Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, he's obviously the central character, and then another weird addition to the story, who isn't really all that prominent, is Jeremy Renner, and he's a U.S. sniper, and my gosh, this guy turns out to be a real hero. That's for sure. By the end of the film, and I'm not really the biggest Jeremy Renner guy. I haven't really seen him in enough where I've really liked him, liked his performance.
Have you seen Wind River?
I don't think so.
That
no.
movie's
He's
sick.
really good in that, huh?
You not remember his biggest role?
Hawkeye. I mean, he was okay.
He was great.
I think that's one of his.
He was
more
good
boring
in
roles, but he's good
in Endgame. I think that was his best performance.
I don't know, his acting method just awesome. He's such a heroic and great great guy to look up to.
Proctor Files giving you some love. Great call
Thanks,
out,
Proctor
GM. The Boondocks was such a good show.
Agreed.
Good, nice. Oh, yep. And Gore King, Wind
King's
River,
agree
and
with you
Hurt
too,
Locker are the ultimate Jeremy Renner movies.
Yep.
Good call outs. If you want to check out Jeremy Renner, there you go.
But sorry.
Oh yeah, so just real quick, just talking about Sergeant Doyle is his name. Yeah, he's a sniper. He does some, he's very compassionate and he's a leader. And of all these characters, you really admire. I really admired this guy. He was very admirable.
The thing too that I think is actually one of the more interesting touches about this movie is that you have Jeremy Renner's character who's heroic. He actually is the one who's willing to risk his life to save other people. But in this world, you don't get rewarded for that. And he gets his fate because he acted heroically, and Dawn gets away because he was a coward.
Oh, right. That's a good point.
It's that don't be a hero trope in a zombie movie.
Yeah, it doesn't seem like anybody's rewarded for that. Yeah, in either of these, and we'll probably see more of that philosophy in the third one, right? So that's a good point. It's a depressing mention there. And then another character who I don't have a picture of, Scarlett. I like that actress. She's
Rose Byrne.
Yeah, Rose Byrne. Yeah, Rose Byrne.
Yeah. Well, I guess she's the nurse here, but she's a great character. I liked her, but kind of an inoffensive presence, really not that prominent at all. She's a caring U.S. medical officer, and she's set on finding a cure to the infection. And we'll mention that she becomes particularly passionate about it when she finds out some pretty big revelations with a few of these characters and their purpose with that. So we see her follow along there. She's all right, kind of passive, not too prominent.
Yeah,
and then you have
serves the story, but she doesn't add too much, I don't think, to it.
No, none of these characters really do.
Yeah,
that's the worst part. I think that's like what falls
the weakest
flat
part of the movie.
Yeah, these guys are not very interesting. Scarlett, meh. The dad is like meh. He is interesting, but
he's
he kind of.
But you obviously don't like him, and you think he's kind of a dirtbag.
Yeah, that's for sure. Yeah. And then Jeremy Renner, he's really not that prominent either. So it's such a weird hodgepodge of characters. And then these two kids, meh, boring. I mean, I really don't have much to say about either of them. Andy's the little boy, kind of haphazardly tours the wasteland. He's foolish, silly, And then Tammy's the older sister. She's set on protecting the brother and, wants to be safe. I mean, that's as far as you go with these guys. They're not that interesting. And that's a little disappointing. You get to the last movie, and there's a lot of great things we were saying about those.
There were great characters in the first one.
Yeah. Were you intrigued? Were you particularly intrigued about any of these guys at all?
Wait, who?
Luke, why don't you start?
All right,
not these two. Just overall.
I like to jump back really quick with your comment. I think that Jeremy Renner. I'm not just saying this because of Marvel. Come on, I'm going to say this now. All right. I'm going to say I think he was very prominent in this movie. He was like our last hope. He was like our last.
He was prominent in the second half.
Yes, he was like our last optimistic character who was who had everything together.
Yeah, I agree with that.
He was the last puzzle. the last piece of the puzzle to solve everything. And then obviously the whole sacrifice scene that sucked. You don't see that with
Spoilers.
you just spoiled the whole movie of 20 Days Later. But it's my turn. Yeah, it's just you don't see that with Jeremy Renner. He always survives and everything. It was just weird seeing him go that way.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I didn't tell him how it happened. All right.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Let's see what Gore King says real quick. Jeremy Renner exudes personality, which makes him entertaining, but we know nothing about him beyond being brave. Yeah, literally. And I guess we did have like a kind of a deep dive analysis in the first movie of those characters, though, like beyond just their, the facade of what they represent, just tonally. But that's a good point. Yeah, this doesn't go very deep with these characters. It's not so much of a character drama. Like you said, it's just an action, right? I mean,
it's a lot more about the sequences and the suspense, I think, and the story. Like it's just a lot more like action centric. It's not as focused on the characters or their development or arcs. But yeah, which makes it weaker. But I think that it does the best possible job it can do, while also not being great on characters. So that makes it not nearly as good as the first movie. But I don't think that it's bad, though, because it does a good job with the story overall. And I think they found a great way, too, to reintroduce this virus in a way that's very threatening. Because I'm not necessarily really invested in the kids, but what is happening, I think, is so intense. And I don't think the movie's scary, but it is horrifying to a degree where you are afraid for them, even though you're not that invested in their characters. But also, too, it's a little bit of a cheap thing to make kids be put in peril, because you're naturally going to be more afraid for them than you would be for just a regular adult.
That's true. Yeah. I guess, yeah, there really wasn't any kids in the first one. That's a good point. Yeah, it does a great job of setting the scene, right? Setting the catastrophe and what's to come. I love the fact that it's like the story, everything got better. It was like, there was hope, and that, the world, like the UK healed itself in 28 weeks. I mean, that's a pretty big development. Everything literally collapses. The whole country collapses. And then now everything's coming back just kind of naturally, because the infected aren't eating people or whatever it is they're doing. And that was sort of like a revelation that hit me with this film, is they tried, like in the first one, I don't think we see the infected eat people. I don't think I saw it, because I watched it twice and I didn't see them do that a single time.
I think they just they just want to infect others, and be violent towards them, because it looks more like they just actively just rage on them and you get violent with them and try and bite them and infect them. Like it seems like they're not trying to eat them.
Gouge their eyeballs out.
The problem, the second one, that's something I didn't like about the second one, was now we're seeing them eat people. And it's like, come on. I liked what you were doing with the first one. They were eating quite a few in this. That was disappointing to me. I thought that was finally like, we're breaking away from that typical trope, but nope. Here we go. But you're right. They are like, gouging the eyes. We had like, it was like at least there might have been three of those scenes.
I'm just gonna say right now, the way like the infection developed again, it is, what Sam's talking about. It happened in the most stupid way possible. Like,
wait, which one?
When he reunited with his wife.
Oh yeah.
I'm excited to talk about that.
So stupid. Like it should not have happened.
Yeah, so let's get into that. Let's talk about the three parts for discussion here, breaking it down into 3 acts. The first act I call family torn apart, put back together. It's so happy. And that's what happens. We briefly mentioned the cottage attack, where, all's hunky-dory, hell breaks loose. Dad escapes, leaves the wife to die, sort of. And he escapes. He does his own thing. Time passes. Now he's at the containment center. He reconnects with his kids, and the kids venture off and they find mom. They go back to their childhood home, and oddly, the mom is there. Everyone, the audience was led to believe that she was dead and that she was infected or eaten alive or something, but she was at the home and she's acting really strange. very strange. And when she sees the little boy, she embraces him with a hug, and it's like the grossest,
Squeezing.
freakiest hug in your life. It's like, oh
Yeah,
gosh,
it's
get
so
her off of him, like a
That was almost
rabid
like
animal.
that was almost like demonic type. Like she, it was almost like a horror movie. Like an actual
yeah.
horror
And I
movie
couldn't
at that
tell if
scene.
it was because she was an infected carrier and if that was
Right.
determining her changes in behavior, or if that was just because she's been scavenging probably and just surviving
Right,
on
she's
her own
freaked out.
for so long.
Insane.
Yeah, and then that leads us to the second part here, Hell Let Loose, the second act, and this is when the military guys, I guess they found the kids, and they grabbed her, and they brought her in, and it turns out that she does have the infection, she has the virus, but she's still like a human, like still normal, kind of, I guess. She's not like trying to eat people or like vomit all over them with her blood stuff. And it's like, oh, there's some hope. She's like, test her blood and figure out if she has, if you can use her genes or whatever else to craft a cure, craft a serum to eradicate the virus. That'd be great, right? Well, right before she gets to speak with her children again, to reconnect with them beyond what she did with her son, which was really strange, dad comes up, and he uses his clearance, and he visits, and he wants to see his loving wife. And I did like that he apologized, and he was real sad. I respected that, and that was a strong scene.
What is he
It
supposed to say?
was something though that I do agree with Gord King on, though, is that I wish they explored it more, the implications of the fact that he left her and that she is still alive and she knows that that decision was made and that the kids now know that that decision was made. Like, I wish they kind of gave him a moment to have to actually deal with that as a person before he turned into an infected.
Right.
That's fair. Yeah, so I think you're
Yeah.
talking about this comment. Gord King. Also, the wife was left in a cottage, but just so happened to have gone back home and survived. Good thing she
Yeah.
was there when the kids show up, huh? Yeah, that
It
was
is a
strange.
logic leap.
Yeah. Oh yeah, and then Gord King says the husband getting back with the wife destroys this movie. The whole plot depends on
Yeah,
it.
I'm sorry. He
know,
was not sorry. I mean, he
Well, he was sorry he got caught.
yeah, that's what I'm saying. He like like he was all defensive right away. He was like, I was scared. So I shut the door in your face and didn't give you a chance to live.
I guess he
Yeah.
never. It sounded like he never went back, but at the same time, it sounded like he knew that she was at the house because he was adamant about the children not going back to their childhood home.
He was so
I figured he
upset and
just
scared.
didn't want them to go out into the wild where they could get infected. But I do think that there's probably, I don't know. I don't think he could have known. I think he was pretty sure that she was dead, because I don't know why
You can tell in his face that he's like, oh shit, when he finds out that she's alive. He's
yeah, you can tell he's like, oh.
He's like, that's a tricky one. And his daughters like, or his kids automatically knew he was full of it at this point.
Yeah.
I really wish, like, this is a reminder, like, I wish we had complex protagonists like this, where it's like they're not even a good guy and they're slimy. You just don't get those at all anymore. And it just makes things interesting. Here we are talking about it. There's a lot to talk about with him. And, I respect the character for that. Very interesting. And here we are. We still don't really know what to think about him or his motives.
Yeah.
So
this one's
that's part
about
of fun.
15 minutes shorter than the first movie. And I honestly think it could have benefited from having that extra 15 minutes just to flesh out, especially that conflict a little bit more.
That's true. Yeah. I would have liked to hear. I'd like to hear her talk to the kids and explain like what's happened too. But yeah, so what happens here is, like I said, he uses his clearance and he meets her, and he tells her he's sorry, blah blah blah, and she forgives him and she says, "I love you." And then, ew, gosh.
And then
we see them kiss.
They go at it.
And it was revealed right before the scene that it's like she is still a carrier of the infection, and that saliva could
they made it gross.
carry it on to carry on to another person. And as they're kissing, he just immediately starts turning into it, and then he
within like 10 seconds later,
he gets her good. and it's real gross, pretty graphic. And
He
does, and it's a sad scene. He quickly escapes, and somebody at movie night, we had a full group of guys tonight. We had like 6 of us, maybe 7.
2 large pizzas and 8 of us.
8 of us. Gosh, there was 8 of us. A lot of people in here. And one of the guys mentioned like he was able to get around because he had clearance, he had the card or whatever. It's like, oh my gosh, how terrible is that? He had access to all these
worst possible
locations.
guy.
Yeah, and I love that you saw he was like, he's thinking, kind of free thinking a little bit, but he's nuts.
Yeah, he seems smarter than just the blind rage of a lot of other of the zombies.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah,
and he's more strategic.
Mm-hmm. And he gouges her eyes out. It's like, why, bro? Why do you have to do that?
Yeah, why is he so angry? Like, what? Like, she's the one that deserves to do that to him. Like, why is he so full of anger? I think all the emotions he had, was all bottled up and turned into anger once he, showed his zombie form. It was I didn't like this part of it. He was almost like he was the main boss. He was the final boss of the movie.
Yeah, he was.
He was like stalking. He was like almost like in their heads, in his children's head. He was like kind of stalking them in their heads and everything throughout the movie.
Yeah,
I don't know. And then even then he was like hunting down some of the main characters and
we'll get to that.
Yeah, we'll get into that.
Yeah, so I mean, he really everything kind of becomes his fault in the end here. I mean, it's all sort of his fault at the end of the day for what he did, and everything goes to shit because of him, unfortunately.
He kind of screwed everybody.
Yeah, everyone. The infection quickly spreads, and he gains access to this like contamination site that's sort of like underground, and all the people are in there, and he just takes everyone out. And the military base is now on code red. And at first, they have snipers lined up all over the place, including Jeremy Renner. They're all firing on the infected at first, but now code red. Everyone is free game. Shoot everyone. That's what they're doing.
It's pretty brutal.
And they're firing on the entire public, everyone that's there, because okay, security breach. There's no chance. Let's wipe everyone out.
That's desperation right there.
And that's the thing too that I think is one of the stronger aspects of the movie that it captures well, is that it's just the government treats people like they're germs when there's a chance of contamination. So they don't see any value in trying to save anyone. So they're just full on contamination, firebomb them, blow them up.
I don't think they had many other choices here though. At the same time though, right? It's like if those guys get out, it's over. The rest of the world,
over.
It's like, it's like, ugh.
I think they should have nuked it beforehand, or bombed it.
Just nuke it or something. I mean, it's
just
the firebomb obviously
city.
wasn't very effective towards the end, unfortunately. Yeah. But that's the sad state of affairs here. Infection spreading, code red, and this is like, it's grim. You see these military guys just mowing everyone down, and it's a sad sight because they don't want to do it, but it's their orders, and it's just such a desperate situation. Very unlike the first one. This was really its own thing, and it doesn't really blend with the days later or the later series. It's sort of kind of charts its own path, which I respect. I respect that, but Jeremy Renner, he doesn't want to put up with this stuff. He doesn't want to hurt innocent people. So he goes out of his way, and he finds the group here. He finds, the kids and Scarlett, the chief, doctor, medical officer, and a few other stowaways. And he tries to lead them out. And, he goes through a dangerous mission trying to escape the camp. And when he's out there, that leads us to the third and final act, which is escaping certain death. He finally leads the group out of the military's eye, and he sacrifices himself. There's this terrible scene where gas
on accident.
Yeah, gas is like there's a big gas bomb that goes off. There's gas all over the place downtown, in the downtown UK area. And these guys rush into this car here. Infected are surrounding them. And the infected, I liked this. I thought this was great. The infected are harmed by the gas, like people. Like, you can't breathe in this poisonous gas or you'll die. Same goes for them. They quickly went away like that. I thought that was great. I love seeing that like human aspect. It just makes it that much more realistic and believable, which I've never seen with zombies before. But this car won't start, and even worse yet, there's more military guys pulling up, and they got flamethrowers. So Jeremy Renner, what I thought he was going to do here was he got out of the car and he was pushing the car. They're trying to start the engine, and I thought he was going to go back to those guys and say, "Hey, I need help." He's a military dude. They wouldn't shoot him. But what ends up happening is he pushes the car enough, it starts, they drive away, and then they torch him.
Yeah.
They torch him.
Absolutely brutal.
And he dies. He burns to death.
Yeah.
He's on
I thought
fire.
that was I thought these sequences too, like these escaping sequences were also some of the more exciting parts of the movie, especially like that. And that was absolutely devastating because he was their best shot at getting out of there.
Yeah.
So complicates things.
Yeah, we lost Luke. There he goes. Poor Luke. He's all right. Yeah, it really did. And it was like that was like one of those, that was a real shocker. I didn't see that coming at all. And that was, oh my gosh, devastating is just the proper word. I didn't like, I like that. I like when that happens, when we don't see something coming.
Something like that. And, like I said, he's not rewarded for being a hero.
No.
Which is a well-established thing in this world.
Yeah, he's probably has. I mean, that's probably the worst fate of any of these guys. I don't think. Yeah. So yeah, that was a real sacrificial play. Very respectable. Makes him a real hero. He's probably the biggest hero of both films. Probably even more than Cillian Murphy, I'd say, with that one.
Definitely. Because I think I couldn't tell, but I think he knew that he was cooked.
Oh, you think so, huh?
Yeah. But I don't know. Like, I feel like the movie is a little bit ambiguous about whether he knows it or not.
There she is.
I just had to get to the bathroom, man.
That was quick. Nice.
You took like 20 seconds.
I washed my hands, okay?
He streams in the restroom.
Yeah.
So, you think that's bad, and of course, it doesn't get much worse than that. But not too long after, it's literally just the kids and Scarlett left. I think her name's Scarlett, and I think they go into like the subway system, and Scarlett's leading them, trying to get them through this dark subway. And dad of the year pops up again. He makes his presence known.
Oh yeah,
and he beats the crap out of her. And it's really strange. He's punching. He's just punching. He's not eating or anything like that. He's not being a weird zombie. Actually, she doesn't even turn, does she? I don't think she even turns.
Is this with Rose Byrne?
Oh, is it Rose?
Oh,
Rose
sorry.
Byrne's,
Maybe that's
Rose
the
Byrne's the name of the actress. I don't know if that's the name of the character.
Yeah, she didn't turn.
Yeah,
He was just angry at her for whatever reason.
Yeah, that's strange. Yeah, that seemed to be like his thing.
Vengeance.
Like as a unique, weird, infected person, he was just like really angry and just beating the crap out of people. But yeah, she dies because of that, which was really weird. Really weird. It's like, what am I watching? Is this happening right now? That happens. Those poor kids are left all alone, and the little boy Andy. Oh, is his name Andy? Oh my gosh, what's his name? Andy, yeah. Little boy Andy, he gets bit by one of those infected, and he's okay. It looks like he carries the gene that his mom did. So there is hope. There's hope that he maybe will fashion a cure from, scientists studying him and whatever else. And these two eventually escape. And they're met by the helicopter that tried saving them several times before. And that's it. That's the end of the movie. And you know what? After seeing that, we had a lot to digest. I think this film is way sillier than the first in some regards.
Yeah.
Especially because we sort of skipped past it, but the helicopter pilot, he kind of he jumbles in and out. He tries to save them several times. It just doesn't work. And there's this scene where there's this horde of the zombies approaching. And I was like, oh my gosh, it's like watching Sharknado, where it's like so unlikely.
Yeah,
he takes
the helicopter blade. What'd you think of the ending with the helicopter?
Oh, I thought it was okay. I think
it going worldwide or spreading
Wait,
to
what do
London.
you mean?
Was that a post-credit scene?
Oh, we didn't
Probably.
stay for
Well,
a
so-
post.
Yeah,
Movie-
because I didn't hear about that.
Movie ends with them getting on the helicopter, and then you find out the helicopter crashed. And
Oh,
wait,
crap.
you see
What?
them running towards the Eiffel Tower in Paris. You see a
Oh no, we saw that.
Oh,
rage.
the helicopter crashed.
yeah.
What? Did
I
you
don't
see that,
recall.
Mike?
Yeah, so then you're
Uh,
finding out that the virus spread beyond the UK, and now it's
Oh,
potentially
I
going
wanna
worldwide.
rewatch that. That's crazy. Oh,
Yeah.
okay. I saw the Eiffel Tower, but I didn't know
Hey,
the
Brown Eyes.
helicopter crashed. Oh, look who's back. Brown Eyes. Hello there. Popping in for a second. Just gonna say I've only seen the first one, and I think it's a pretty good movie. And I'm not a fan of apocalyptic movies. Oh, there we go.
Pretty good one.
Nice, yeah. Huh. I didn't notice that. That makes sense. I was kind of like, I thought what was gonna happen was the boy was gonna like infect the girl. That would have
Yeah.
been crazy, or like kill her or something like that. But no,
Mhm.
that didn't happen. I'm kind of like I don't know. That's an interesting ending. Then it was that helicopter
is.
that crashed.
Yep.
Wow.
So the main characters just died after everything.
They don't exactly show you what happened because it kind of just cuts to the helicopter's crash, but you don't see any bodies or anything.
They're dead.
And then you just hear like, yeah, I don't remember if it was like a helicopter thing, but like you see a horde of infected running towards the Eiffel Tower, so you know that it's spread. Yeah.
And I was gonna ask a question, but I think I'm gonna do a follow up. Is it confirmed that Cillian Murphy is not in 28 years later? Because
He's not in the first one.
Yeah, he's gonna be in 28 years later, the Bone Temple, which is part 2.
Oh, he's gonna be in. Okay, cool.
Yeah, he's 100% gonna be in that one.
Cool. What about some main protagonists from 28 weeks later? Do you think?
I
we'll
think
see any
I
of
think they're
them.
kind of
They're all dead.
Well, yeah, they're all dead, but I think they're like
Allegedly.
basically retconning it. Like they also make it apparently from the basic premise seem like they pushed the virus back into the UK, and it's all confined to just the UK, and nowhere else in the world has suffered from the virus, and they kind
Right.
of just keep it quarantined.
And also, Griffin, do you know if 28 years later is that set in America?
No, it's in the UK.
It's still UK. Okay.
Oh, it's
I
still
thought it was
UK?
America too. I was getting the feeling it was America for some
They
reason.
should switch it up. I mean, go to a different.
Why is it not in America by now, right? I think they'd find a way to get
Right.
to
I mean, you know, how fast COVID went to from China to the US. I mean, it was like
No,
not even a couple months.
Yeah. Well, I'd be interested too to see like a worldwide, like how the whole entire world reacts to getting
Right.
broken out with it. But
I mean, you saw an airplane in this movie too, so I mean, it's obviously going elsewhere.
Yep.
Yeah, it's an interesting situation. Real quick before we talk about our recommendations, if we recommend these films to you or not, I want to bring up what Gore King said earlier, pulling back because he had some interesting things to say about it that we didn't get to.
Yeah.
Gore King. So he's talking about 28 weeks later here. He was heated early on. He's not a big fan of this movie.
Yeah.
The wife survives, very unlikely. They bring her in, know she could be infected, so they test her, but leave her completely unguarded. Her husband should not be able to visit her. I completely agree. That was silly.
It's
Then
it's
Gore
logic
King.
leaps like that just make it tough to defend the movie.
Yeah. The virus breaking out again only occurs based on the most preposterous plot convenience imaginable. And following that, the father is a zombie now and basically becomes a supernatural movie slasher following his children no matter how much distance they put between them. It's so stupid. Yeah, why is he so attracted to them? I mean, if he's sort of like he's not, I guess he's not completely mindless. I don't know why he would be so set on wanting to hurt them.
Version of it because he caught it from a carrier.
Is
like, but I mean, that could also just be like trying to do the work for the movie though, which you can't,
Yeah, Gore King, he also says it's possibly the most overrated horror sequel ever made.
Okay, hold on. Gore King, I'm talking to you right now, okay?
Whoa, here we go.
I'm going to rate it, a higher rating than others because I have no expectations, and oh wow, okay, here we go. I have not seen 28 Days Later, so I do not know which movie is better or the other. And, obviously 28 Days Later is probably better and is better, but I rate 28 Weeks Later a 7.2 out of 10. I thought it was pretty good. I thought, had, they went straight to the point. What, Jackson?
I'm sorry. I'm just having fun. Keep talking.
All right, Gord King. That's what I rate it. Okay.
Good. Thank you, Luke.
Like, I agree with his points, but they're kind of like plot conveniences that don't overall ruin the experience for me. Like, they're all pretty managed. Like, there's things that are fine with me getting over. Like, they're definitely flaws, and I agree. It just makes it not nearly as good as the first one. But overall, I enjoy the movie to a point.
2.8 days later.
But I think the biggest missed opportunity is definitely just not them grappling more with like Don's decision from the beginning of the movie.
Yeah, not much. That doesn't go anywhere really.
Yeah,
it's a pretty crucial element to what's made him the way he is.
Yeah.
Gord King, I like what he says here too. And it doesn't help that the characters are complete nothing burgers. 28 Weeks had the cast to be great. Jeremy Renner, Rose Byrne, Idris Elba, Robert Carlos. I don't know her or him. Dude, that's a dude. All great actors. Horribly botched it. Oh gosh. Yep, Gord King's roasting this one. So, do you guys recommend 28 Days Later and 28 Weeks Later?
I recommend 28 Weeks Later.
Do you want people to watch both? Tell us.
Watch all of them.
No, I definitely recommend them both. First one, I like much more, obviously. The second one's just more action-based, more adrenaline-fueled, more flawed, but I still think it's a very solid sequel.
I have a question for you, Jackson. What's so funny about 28 Weeks Later?
I was just laying with Gord King.
Yeah, I know.
Sorry, I check in with the chat. I make sure the chat's doing good. And,
no, they're gonna laugh out of me.
It's funny, man. It's good stuff.
Yeah, that's what I thought. I think my problem is I need to scoot back. I think that's my problem. I think I'm so close. Is that what it was?
No, that's part of it. I like that you're intense, Luke. Intensity's great.
Awesome. I got to stand up for some things,
That's right. I'm all about that.
I respect Gordon. I respect your so yeah, we're having fun.
Proctophile's on your side. You say it, Luke.
Yeah, wait.
Dude, Luke went all in like the Hassan or the Sam Hyde Hassan Piker call out. I thought he was going to tell him he was coming to his house.
No. But no, I don't think it deserves that much criticism. It's a pretty damn good zombie movie. It's gory, it's action fueled, it's a bunch of rage. It portrays the zombies in a really cool way. And they're quick and they're scary. Some of these zombie movies like Zombieland, you're like, oh, I could survive this, no problem. But this movie, it's like, really makes you think. Like, you'd be screwed. You really have to be.
You feel hopeless watching.
Yeah. Oh yeah, like they're fast. They gang up on you. I mean, it's awful.
Yeah, like that beginning scene. I think the beginning sequence is really good, actually, of 28 Weeks Later, and I think the rest of the movie, unfortunately, just doesn't meet, I think, that level of intensity. And but
that's true.
I think it just sets a great tone for a sequel.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and also
I can't wait for the new one.
Gord King, I had a buddy tell me this today. So Dawn of the Dead is almost like a commercial movie because like they're in a mall, they're shopping, it's kind of advertising. I was told that Shaun of the Dead is almost like a racism, like it portrays racism in some
Shaun of the Dead.
I think so.
Really?
I might be
not Shaun of the Dead.
Because
maybe Dawn of the Dead.
No, Dawn of the Dead is like a.
Is there even a minority in Shaun of the Dead?
It's all white people.
Exactly. I think like it was back in the day, and like you have to look it up because I was told today that that's what it the meaning of it is.
I don't think so.
I'll look it up.
Might be a stretch, but
yeah, it might be. But I'll look it up.
It's just a dumb old fun movie. That's That's what it is. And real quick, just to clear Gord King's name here. To be clear, I do not mind people liking this movie. I'm talking objective quality, not subjective enjoyment. I enjoyed movies that I would rate badly. Yeah, exactly, right?
Fair
Like
enough, Gord
like
King,
Adam
yeah.
Sandler's Jack and Jill. I enjoy that one.
Oh,
Nobody likes it.
okay. You know what?
Everybody
I'm not going to
hates.
say anything about
Everyone
that.
hates on me for that. I'm gonna not talk about it because people are not gonna like
Dude,
it.
I made my family see that in theaters.
I wish I had that opportunity. I want to see that in theaters.
No, dude, my parents hated me after that.
Oh man! So you liked it?
I haven't seen it since. I was literally 11, and
Okay,
I
it's
think
been
I
a while.
enjoyed it. I just don't remember a whole lot about it, but I remember my family being very confused by why I chose to see that.
Nice. Well, I guess that's pretty much it. We talked about it. I think I
Yep.
recommend 28 Days Later and 28 Weeks Later.
There you go.
Had a lot of fun with these both. Very different films, but yeah, check them both out. I don't think
Yeah.
there's anything to skip in the first one. The second one, maybe just one or two little things. Other than that, great. A lot of fun. You're going to have a great time. Get ready for 28 Years Later, people. Very
Man, I'm
exciting stuff.
excited.
We're going to be streaming Thursday night, 9 p.m. Luke and me are going to be giving our out-of-theater reaction and reviews, breaking it down, talking about it. We're going to try our best not to spoil it. We don't want to spoil the enjoyment for anybody, but we want to make sure that you know that this movie is a step up or a step down from what we've had.
Come prepared to get spoilers.
No, we're not going to spoil anything. Don't worry. No spoilers. We're going to keep it cool. We're just giving you a little taste of what's to come. So if you want to see what we have to say, please join us Thursday night at 9 p.m. Eastern time. We really appreciate that. And check out GM Light here. Griffin, do you want to shout out some stuff going on? You got anything exciting coming up?
Right now, no, I've been kind of slow on my videos. I filmed a Final Destination ranking finally, even though the movie came out like a month ago. But
Nice.
yeah, I'm going to be getting my 28. I'm going to try to get my 28 years review out probably late Thursday night. Probably going to be like 2 a.m. on Friday.
Dang. Nice. Cool. Sweet. Well, stay tuned for that, guys. Yeah, check out
Yep.
Griffin's point of view. It's great having him on. A great addition to our group. Unfortunately, he's not going to be here with us Thursday night. It's so
Yeah, I'm going
sad.
to be seeing the movie.
We were so close. So yeah, don't tune in while watching the movie or we'll spoil it. Well, no, we're not spoiling it. So just don't tune in anyway.
I
Enjoy
like to
the
point
movie.
out that
Have
we've
fun.
spoiled a lot of new releases before.
No. We only spoil the ones that really suck. If it sucks, then we might
Yeah,
spoil
like
it.
if you give a fair warning, and nobody cares.
Yeah. We don't spoil the good stuff. Don't worry about that. We're going to have a good time. But in case you haven't yet already done it, please make sure to give the stream the thumbs up, subscribe to the channels, check out Griffin's channel here, GM Light, and join us again Thursday, 9 p.m. Eastern time. As always, we appreciate you guys, though. Thanks for watching us and sticking around till the end. We appreciate you. And, well,